We will not enjoy the destination of financial freedom. I want you to be very clear on where your spending is going. It's habits, behaviors, and decisions. How much angst, fear, and uncertainty they had around money, their financial future. It doesn't need to be this way.
It's how we make decisions. Like when you're $20,000 in credit card debt or $200,000 in credit card debt or whatever it is, right? Some people are breaking even. They're not even in debt, but there's a thought around it.
When we start talking about financial freedom and wealth and all that, it isn't a money game. It is a mind game and a behavior game.
I don't know where to start. I don't know who to hire. I don't know who to trust. I don't have enough money for anybody to get excited about working with me. Where do you send somebody like that?
I'm just going to give you the mathematics. I'm going to give you the columns and the rows and all that stuff. And I quickly figured out that I can't fix the pocketbook if I didn't fix what was here.
What are some habits we should be incorporating? Either to hear, okay, I'm doing that, that's great, or I need to start doing that. Are there any certain habits that you are big on and having people really be looking at right away?
I think we need to have
How financially secure are you? What does the behind the scenes look like in your business? If we were to open up the profit and loss, your bank account, would you be proud? Would you be, showing off like what you've got or what you've built or any of that, right? Or would you maybe feel a little behind, a little embarrassed, a little shoulda, woulda, coulda type situation? Okay. That was me for many, many years. I looked successful on the outside and the inside, not so much, mostly because I would just take the profits from my business and I would pour it back into the business. So it didn't really leave me with anything left over. And I was so sure that these businesses were going to take off, which in my defense, they did. But I was so sure that I never was putting money away. I was never trying to bank on another plan because I knew these businesses would work. And I will tell you, although they did work, I do have regrets on not investing in my future a little bit sooner. So I'm really excited because today I'm going to bring you the guy that if I have a financial question, if I want to refinance my house, if I'm debating, should I take out a home equity line of credit? Should I, take out anything, right? Mel Abraham is the guy I have on speed dial. And I'm fortunate enough to call him a good friend. And yes, I will text him. I will call him before I make any big financial decision. He is truly somebody that I respect. I admire. I know he has my best interest at heart. He has never steered me wrong. And I have asked him some big questions. So I'm really excited because Mel has just come out with a new book called Building Your Money Machine. And this book is really going to show you how to make your money start to work for you. And the cool part is Mel is an entrepreneur. He has always been a business owner and he gets us a lot more than just a typical CPA, right? That maybe is trading his time for dollars, right? Mel is not doing that. And that's the kind of person I want to get money advice from. So we're going to be diving into maybe some of your personalities, the way that you spend, you save, what to start to change, some of your habits, your decisions, right? Mel's going to give you some advice on maybe where you're at and what you can start to do. And he gives some very easy, simple tactics to get you moving forward today. How much should you be saving? How do you start saving? What does that look like? Mel is going to be filling you in on everything. So I'm so excited to introduce you, if you have not met him before, my good friend, Mel Abraham. Enjoy. Mel, welcome back to Well-Oiled Operations.
Oh, Stacey, it's so good to be back again.
So excited to catch up. I love chatting. I love chatting finances, money, all of the things with you. You are the guy that I chat about that stuff with. So I'm excited to be here with you. So first of all, I know you very well. Some people may have already heard you on the podcast before. They know you well, but I would love for you really quickly just to give a simple background, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
I'm a CPA by education, but actually it doesn't really matter because none of that taught me to do the things that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But I've been an entrepreneur. I've got the entrepreneur bug at 11 years old. This idea of, is it possible to do the things I love to do, make an impact, and have a positive change in people's lives and make good income and live a life that's full of meaning and richness. Now, I didn't get all those lessons at 11, but it was the seed that was planted that allowed me to start looking forward. And so I have been an entrepreneur, a CPA, a financial advisor, a money mentor to people building businesses, helping them build their wealth, helping them build a life that is meaningful, that is fruitful, that is impactful, and to create it in a way that doesn't suck the life out of them, but gives them a life that's based on choice instead of demands. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've been doing for a while. And I took a break for a little bit, but then came back to it with a
Yeah.
vengeance.
Yeah. I love it. So, what was your goal with this book? Like, why this book? Why now? What's the intention behind it?
The goal of the book was, in a word, impact.
Okay.
Okay, I've watched people. So I watched people during the pandemic, and then since the pandemic. So in November of 2022, I was at a conference keynoting in Austin, Texas. 2,400, 2,200 people there. And I got done, and the promoter said, "Hey, we have a little bit of extra time. Would you be open to doing a Q&A with the audience?" And I said, "Sure." So I went down in the audience, I'm doing a Q&A. And when I got done, I realized how much angst, fear, and uncertainty they had around money, around their financial future, around how to handle it, how to set themselves up. What are they going to do when they get older? How can they take care of themselves or their loved ones? And so I'm backstage and talking with Brendan about it. And I said, it doesn't need to be this way.
Mm.
They don't have to feel that stress. They don't have to feel that uncertainty. The problem is that they haven't been given the tools. They haven't been educated, equipped, and empowered to know that they can be in control, because the media, the social media, or the financial services, they want to keep it complex, but it's
Yeah.
not. And so the answer was the book. The answer was having conversations with it, and saying, if I can get the book out there, I can get it in a lot of people's hands at an accessible, affordable way to
Yeah.
give them tools and tactics, and to dispel the myths and give them real life, tactics, strategies, but also tie it to building a life like I normally
Yeah.
do, and not just about money, but really
Yeah.
about life. And so that's why the book came out. Is I saw the need on that side. I also saw the gift in me, because I felt like this was my opportunity to give to the world what I was uniquely put here to do,
Yeah.
based on my journey that I had no idea, but it,
Yeah.
it came out of that.
Well, and what I love is I do think you being a CPA, it gives you that credibility of like you actually know this stuff. Like you were trained in how to understand, read, et cetera. But knowing you very well and knowing many CPAs, you're very, very different, right? You have very different philosophies, very different
Yeah.
thoughts. I may ask you a question, may ask my CPA a question. You have totally different answers. So I would love to hear like what about your journey, your background has made you think differently? Because money is, man, it is a mindset, right? It
Yeah.
is how you grew up. It's how you think today. It's how we make decisions. Like when you're $20,000 in credit card debt or $200,000 in credit card debt or whatever it is, right? Some people are breaking even. They're not even in debt, but there's a thought around it, right?
Yeah,
And
there
that
it is.
mindset can make or break our next move. So I'm just curious, like, what has shifted your beliefs and your mindset to make you a little bit
Yeah.
different than most?
The funny thing is, when I came to this thinking I was going to teach it, because I was a CPA, I
Yeah.
thought, I'm just going to give you the mathematics. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you
Yeah.
the columns and the rows and all that stuff. And I quickly figured out that I can't fix the pocketbook if I didn't fix what was
Yeah.
here. What was in our mind. And so I started to look at some of the things that drove me, and the stories that I got told, or the stories I told myself. And there was plenty of them that I had to navigate. But I think the driving force for me in a lot of things was, at 6 years old, 5.5 years old, my son came to live with me, and I became a single full-time dad. And I was given this gift and the responsibility of taking care of him,
Mhm.
which also meant that I had to guide him. And so there was always this question in my mind:
Yeah.
what is Jeremy seeing? What is
Mm.
Jeremy seeing? Because he's going to take away more from what I do than what I say, because kids, they just ignore what we say, but they
Yeah.
get it. And so what happened, and early on, what really started to push me down this path to be obsessed with money and finances and how to do it was Jeremy at 6 years old drawing a picture of it. I was an entrepreneur. I was a CPA. I was building a business. I was building a practice. I was on the treadmill. I was speaking. I was traveling. I was doing the things. And he came in one day and said, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. And so I kneeled down to grab this picture, and it's me in front of 2 computer screens with a phone in each ear. And it's like,
I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
it's not.
And don't you have the picture in the book? Do I remember
do have the
seeing
picture
that?
in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, it is in the book.
It's legit the
it's,
photo
oh,
of
God,
the book.
at the
Yes.
hands of a kid. But that was the thing that you start looking and if I go back to when I was his age, when I was his age, and I tell the story in the book, at 5.5 was the first time I saw my father cry. And it was when my mother and him were having a conversation. It had to do with money. I have no idea what the topic was, but I knew it had to do with money. And my dad, for the first time I ever saw him cry, looked at my mom and said, I feel like I'm letting the people I love the most down.
Yeah.
And so I took that to mean, oh, you got to make a lot of money. Otherwise, you let the people you love down. So what did I do? I went to make
Made
a lot of money.
Yeah. You started doing it.
Yeah. Then this picture comes in and I go, uh-oh, I'm making a lot of money and I'm still letting the people that I love down. And I go, God, there has to be a way to do money differently, to do life differently, to business differently, so they can all coexist, that it isn't an either or, that it has to be an and.
Yeah.
And what I came up with is this idea that at some point we have to find a way to separate our earnings, our ability to earn, from the efforts to earn it. And that's what gave birth to the idea of a money machine, is saying, what are the things that I can do to build a machine that doesn't require me to be on the treadmill to constantly spin the wheels to make the money?
Yeah.
And that's how this all started to come about. And I started to explore my limitations. I started to explore my thinking and beliefs and test it. I made plenty of mistakes. And the good news is that I did enough things right to be successful. But the better news for the readers and for the audience is that I did enough things wrong to be educational. So they don't have to make the same mistakes I made.
Yeah, so good. So in the book, you talk about like money personalities and building new habits. Like, I think I'd love to hear, like, what are these personalities, right? And can we maybe leave behind some of these personalities, like the person we naturally are? How do we start building those better habits and just stepping into maybe a direction we want to head?
So here's the thing. I think you're going to see that you will actually play in the different personalities. The question is, where do you live? And more importantly, where does your intimate partner or they live? Because so you have the spender, you have the saver, you have the investor, and you have the philanthropist. Those are the 4 personalities. But if I put a spender and a saver together, it's volatile.
Yeah,
because basically they have the bucket, but the spender is putting holes in the bucket. And so what goes in was, and it's not about saying one is wrong. It's about understanding it and what motivates them and what drives them. Now, part of it, when we start talking about financial freedom and wealth and all that, it isn't a money game. It is a mind game and a behavior game. And why I say that is, if you look at, there's a study out there with 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them were first generation. They didn't win it. They didn't inherit it. It wasn't gifted to them. They created it. 8 out of 10 created it. That is good odds for us.
Yeah.
Okay. 31% of those never made more than a little bit over $100,000 a year. So it wasn't that they made big dollars to become millionaires. It was the fact that what they did with it was important. So when I look at spender in there, can we give them some guidelines? Can we give them a recipe, a prescription that allows them to satisfy the spending, not on momentary pleasures, but the things that give them deep joy? So they satisfy that need while at the same time modifying behaviors and giving them the behaviors that they need to build it. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Now, you can also have the saver on the other side that almost looks like a hoarder. Don't spend, don't spend, don't spend. And in fact, there are people that have a really hard time when they get to their golden years and say, okay, I'm going to work. they've spent so many years saving and investing that transition to spending freaks them out.
Right. It's just not
And
their habit. They're not used to it.
it's not. So when we look at these different personality types, it's about understanding which one you are leaning in, and it will
Mm,
change. Like early on I was probably a spender, then a
okay.
saver, then I was a saver and investor.
Okay.
Um, and now I'm more philanthropy and investor, still a little bit of saving, but I'm leaning back in the spending because we're in that phase of our life and
Yeah.
everything. So I don't want it to be like, oh, there's one that is the place, but there is a mixture that's in our life that shifts. And when you have someone else in your life, you got to understand how they interact so we don't have the challenges, because
Yeah.
money should be something that brings people together in their relationships towards a common vision for their life, not separates them because they have different visions for their bank account.
So good. Okay. I want to ask you a question about like a business owner. Like this was me. I was constantly just thinking, I'm going to put it into my business. I'm going to put it all back into my business. And I'm young and I can invest later and I can spread my wealth later and I right all of the things. And then it was like, I'm getting older and another year went by and another year went by. And it just felt like I finally had this breakthrough or maybe breakdown of this will never change. I will always want to invest in my business and it can't be the only place I invest. So do you see, I know you work with a lot of business owners. Do you see that a lot?
I see it a lot. And their rationale is I can get a better return on my
Correct.
investment by investing in the business. And I totally agree with that. That is true. However, what they're doing is they're looking at one side of the coin. They can get a return. But what I look at for folks is I want you to look at safety first, growth second,
Mm,
because safety is what gives us the foundation to survive
yeah.
on anything that comes. So, what they're not, the other side of the coin they're not looking at is risk. So, if I put everything in the business as if it is my wealth, okay, and something happens, pandemic, health concern, relationship, just I don't like it
Anything.
anymore,
Yeah.
lawsuit, anything, all your eggs are in one basket. And so, yes, is it possible that you could grow your business faster if you just invested every dollar in there? Yes, but the price is that you take on more risk to yourself and your future should something happen where you couldn't work or you decide not to work. And in 2019, I shut down all my businesses because of a cancer diagnosis,
Yeah.
and I literally shut it down. The fact that I have the money machine, that I had this on the
Do it.
side, allowed me to continue our lifestyle without draining accounts, selling things, doing things.
Yeah.
And we could have stayed that way for the rest of our lives, but I enjoy doing what I do. So I came back. Now, what that meant is in order to do that, I had to take a piece of what I was earning in the businesses early on, not reinvested in the business,
Right.
but invested in the freedom. So I look at the dollars that I take away from the business. So I'm going to invest in the business. That's going to grow the business. The money I take away from the business, I'm actually investing in something else. And it's the ultimate purchase that we all should be searching for. And that is freedom. So I look at it and say every dollar that I invest outside of the business is a dollar I'm investing in my freedom, in my choice, in my get to life instead of have to life. And I want to have both of them.
Yeah. Okay. So good. So, what are some habits we should be incorporating either to hear, okay, I'm doing that, that's great, or I need to start doing that? Are there any
Yeah.
certain habits that you're big on and having people really be looking at right away?
There's a couple of them that I'm dogmatic about. Then
Okay.
there's a couple of them that I look at and say, these are guidelines.
Okay.
The dogmatic ones are, I think we need to have liquidity.
Okay.
Okay. Meaning that I want to have some cash. We have something in the book that I talk about, and we detail it out. It's basically, it's called the wealth priority ladder. It gives every dollar a job,
Mm,
and the mistake that we often make is that we do not in advance decide what we're going to do with our money. Your money is your employees. They're going to work for you 24/7, 365 days a year. And yet we don't assign it anything. And when we don't assign it, we would never do that with an employee.
Yeah.
Employee comes in, we give them a job description, a role, a title, all the stuff, but we don't do it with our money. And what tends to happen is then our money is susceptible to temptation. And the way to remove temptation is to put a plan in place before you ever earn the money. So now I know when the money comes in, this dollar goes here, this dollar goes here, this dollar goes here. So one of the first things, though, is that I want to have liquidity to sustain myself if there is a long-term life event. It could be economics, it could be, anything, health, it could be anything. And I say long-term, I'm not talking about 30 days. I'm talking about, 6 months, 9 months, where you sit back and go, gosh, how do we, my wife, she's amazing at what she does. Well, Thursday morning, now it wouldn't have hurt us at all, but Thursday morning, she gets an email from her company that says, stay home. We'll be calling all of you and let you know the status of your job.
Wow.
It's like, and there's people there that were 20 years in the job and they were gone. Now she kept her job, but I don't even know what that's like, because I tell people I'm unemployable. That's so I had to be self-employed.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine getting an email in the morning and now all of a sudden your existence is in jeopardy. And there was two people, one they both had been there 20 years, same level. One of them said, I don't know what I'm going to do. They're giving me a great severance until the end of next year. But I could retire, but I'm not sure I want to. The other one, 20 years, said, oh my God, I have to get a job and I got to do it quickly. Why? Because that one, I don't know the situation, in all likelihood, has debt and no liquidity.
Yeah.
And so what I want first is, let's build liquidity.
Okay.
Second, let's avoid destructive debt. Now, I am not one that believes all debt's the devil.
Okay.
Can
I ask you before we go into debt real quick?
Yeah.
With expenses, are we looking at the extreme situation, something bad happens? What are the expenses that would stay? Not like, well, I spend X amount on shopping. Like, obviously that would go away if an extreme situation happens. So you're looking at what are the real expenses that would have to stay, that times 6 months is what we want to save up to. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, well, so two things. One is I want to make sure at baseline I have survival expenses. Okay. I'm going to be fed. I'm going to be clothed. I'm going to be sheltered.
Yeah.
And I've got my medical. But beyond that, I still want to, if I can, I want to build enough liquidity to cover my current lifestyle. Okay.
So there's like a good and like a better goal of what we could do for that.
Now, I tell people, and I do this in the book, that I think 6 months is too short.
Okay.
And I want you to use, and this is one of those guideline areas, somewhere between 9 and 18 months.
Okay.
And why it will change is that if you have two income earners, then you might be towards the lower end.
Okay.
If you have our one
Somebody
income
like
earner,
me, right? Yeah, totally. We're banking on like one massive,
income. So now everyone is so dependent on it that you might push it out a little further.
Okay.
If you are single and young, caution to the wind.
Yeah.
But if you have 4 or 5 kids or 3 kids and you have this family depending on you, then I would push it out a little bit. If I am up, I'm going to say older in years, where you're sitting back saying, God, my earning years, my bigger earning years are probably behind me, I might have more liquidity. So I want them to use it as bumpers to sit back and say, what do I need to feel comfortable, safe? And I call it a peace of mind fund. I want it to give you peace of mind. We're good,
Okay.
And that's how I would look at it.
Yeah.
And
so I'm
put
somebody
it in a
that
high
has
yield savings account, and at least you're earning something on it.
Okay. And I love Wealthfront. Where are you putting your money, places like that? Wealthfront. Okay, cool.
I have right now, 99% of it is at Wealthfront. It's insured up to $8 million.
Okay.
It is fully liquid. You connect your account, link your accounts. I can get the money.
Amazing.
And it's pretty easy and pretty quick.
And it was really fast. I actually just removed a lot of tax money
I did
from
the same.
Wealthfront
Oh,
into a different bank account. And it said like, you'll have your money in 2 to 3 days. And within like a day, the
no.
money was
Yeah.
released. So it was very quick. Okay. So, I have multiple businesses. Many people listening could as well.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't, maybe they just have their personal bank account and their business bank account. Do you recommend 6 months plus personally for business number 1, business number 2? Like, what
Mm.
are we talking here?
So I do it a little differently with businesses and everything. So I do think that you want business and personal separate.
Okay.
What I don't want to have happen is commingling, and now you have to take personal monies and put it into the business if you don't have to.
Okay.
So each
So like
business I
you're
would
saying there should be a business account that has 6 months or more of savings and a personal account for the business expense, and then a
yeah.
personal account of 6 months expenses of personal.
Yes, but I'd make one change to it,
Okay.
and that is it may not be 6 months in the business. Okay.
Cool. Okay.
So I might do it as low as 3 months. Part of it is dependent. Like there was a time where I had a firm and we had 29 employees, so it was like 110,000 a month just to open the doors.
Yeah.
Okay, but I had 29 families depending on our income. So a contingency fund in that business was far bigger because to me, I wasn't one of those bosses that says, "Oh, we're having trouble. I'm starting to cut right
Lay
away."
off everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I have a larger payroll or families, and this is the philosophy that you want to operate under, we have a responsibility to them. And I think
Yeah.
that we do some things. We bring them on board and engage and
Yeah.
enroll them in the correction that we need to make. But that's when I'm probably going to push more to 6 months. If
Okay.
I don't have that kind of overhead and most of it's contractors and all that stuff, then I'm probably keep it down.
Okay.
The other thing that I would do separate also, because I try to keep everything separate so there is no commingling. Let's say I have a piece of real estate. I would have a separate contingency fund for the real estate also. Now
Okay.
that might simply be, 1 or 2 months of expenses there. But if it goes vacant, or I have a bad tenant that I have to evict, or I have to have
Yeah.
a bad repair,
Makes a big
I
difference.
want to be in there and know that each one is its own little pod of financial existence.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We have a tenant and we basically, that's like, we always call it like fun money. Like we don't bank on it. We don't use it. Like it is truly there as extra. And we look
Yeah.
at it as it could go away at any time because yes, we have a lease. Doesn't mean they're going to pay it. Doesn't mean they're
No.
going to stick around. Doesn't mean they're going to go out of business, file bankruptcy, and there'll be nothing I can do. Right. So we do try to look at it a little bit differently than thinking, oh, we need that income. We have to have that income. Right.
Yeah.
I will say when you bring up, the real estate side, my studios are renting buildings from me. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh my goodness, they're not going to be able to afford these buildings and I am going to be in trouble. So that was a wake up call for me of I better have that money sitting somewhere because I was not thinking that way. And that was the scary part for me. So,
Yeah.
so good. Okay. We are like coming close to time here, which is crazy. So I want to ask you this. When we say
Yeah.
6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, people are probably thinking, Mel, I don't even have a week or a
Yeah.
month, or we are spending what we're making, or we're having a profit, but then I take the profit and I make that be my income, right? So how do we get somebody who's not totally intimidated by these gigantic numbers of what we need? Like where can they start making baby steps here?
So this is a beautiful thing. At the beginning, like I said, it's habits, behaviors, and decisions. It's a muscle group. So the most important thing for people to take away is to realize that you cannot win the wealth game on the sidelines or in the stands. You have to be on the field. That means that I got to get you in the game.
Hmm.
Your first $100,000 is the hardest. It will take you at $10,000 a year. It'll take you about 7.5 years.
Yeah.
And if you did that every year, you would have $500,000 in, I don't know, 12 years or something. But do you know that it'll take 7 years to double that, the other 500,000? It's easier once you're in the game. So
Yeah.
the important thing is this, and this is why I tell people, I don't care what you start with. I just need you on the field. If
Just
all
start.
you can afford right now is $5 or $10, I literally just want you to exercise the muscle and have the $5 or $10 go into a high yield savings account. Because what it's going to do is it's going to start getting you used to not just paying down debt, but putting money away for your future. And you're
Mhm.
building that habit and you're not having to make the decision, because the tendency is that as our income grows, our expenses grow, we have lifestyle creep, and now we still don't have enough. Oh, when I make more, and we don't get in the game. And
Yeah.
here's why you got to get in the game early. Now, no matter where you are, I get it that not everyone's 20 years old here.
Yeah.
And but I want you to understand why it's so important to get in the game early. Time is your greatest lever. The more time you have, the less money you need. The less time you have, the more money you need. At 20 years old and an S&P 500 fund, your money that you put in at 20 years old will go up 88 times by the time it's time for you to retire. 88 times. If I wait 5 years, so I'm now 25, that 88 goes to 44. If I wait 5 more years, now I'm 30 years old, that 44 goes to 23. So we need to get in the game early wherever you are. That's when people say, well, is now a good time to invest? And my answer is a question. Were you investing yesterday? No? Okay, then now's a good time. It's
Yeah.
always a good time to get in the game,
Okay.
because if we're not in the game, we can't win it.
Yeah.
So as much as we're struggling to sit back and say, hey, we're not heavily profitable and I don't have a lot to put away,
Right.
just get in the gym, pick up the chrome weights, do a little exercise. That's
Yeah.
all I want you to do, because that will grow and it develops the skills, it develops the habits, and it develops you on the journey.
Okay.
And I walk through all that recipe in the book,
Okay.
all of it,
Amazing.
just kind of saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is how
So
to start.
these are things like I had heard always, right? And I knew this. It was like, I'm young, I'm in my early 20s, like I have to do this, but yet I wouldn't. And my
Yeah.
biggest holdup was I don't know where to start. I don't know who to hire. I don't know who to trust. I don't have enough money for anybody to get excited about working with me. So where do you send somebody like that? Like I'm in a different situation now, obviously, but when
Yes.
back in the day, I wasn't.
And this was a big deal because and we go back in my day,
Yeah.
you needed someone to do it because
Yeah.
you didn't have access to anything. You didn't have
Okay.
access to accounts, markets. There wasn't ETFs and index funds. There just wasn't any of that. You have good robo advisors that you answer the questionnaire and they'll design the portfolio. But even so, in the book, I said, let's just simplify it. We don't have a lot of decisions to make. The first decision is, am I getting on the field? Am I going to play the game?
Yeah.
And once I decide that I'm going to play the game, then the second decision is that I need to make investing a priority, which means that your current lifestyle takes a bit of a back seat.
Yeah.
And
Which is
so
hard for some
now,
people. They're like, what do you mean my Starbucks is going away? What do you mean
yeah.
my shopping budget's going away?
And it's not that it's going away. I want us to ask an and question. It is what we're doing is I don't want to forsake your financial future because it is coming. We have no options for retirement, and Social Security is not an option. Okay. I mean, it's icing if you get it, but it's still not the level of Social Security is right above the poverty line. Forget it. Okay. So if you want to continue your life, we've got to take responsibility of it ourselves. So the question really is, I know what my future is that I'm trying to create and what it's going to take to fund it. Let's make sure that's a priority. And now if you sit back and look at today and go, well, but I don't have, I need more money because I don't want to give up my shopping. I don't want to give up those things. Two things that I want you to do. One is the question you're going to ask is, how do I make this possible? Instead of this is all I have. There are ways to increase your income. There are ways to supplement your income to make both possible. But more importantly is that I want you to be very clear on where your spending is going. I will not tell anyone, typically, I will not tell anyone not to spend. I just want them to spend intentionally, consciously, and aware. And here's what I mean. What are the things that actually bring you sustainable joy? Stephanie and I love to travel. We don't travel on Spirit Airlines. So it's expensive.
Yeah.
But that gives us long-term joy. instead of momentary pleasure. Momentary pleasures are the things that we buy off of freaking Instagram, which I did. I got a $900 coffee maker that was momentary pleasure. I can order my coffee right from my desk. And
Yeah.
yeah, we could afford it. But how many of those things do we do because they seem cool at the time? And after the moment passes, there's no additional gift to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And what ends up happening is that's where we find the soft spots in our finance. And where I want people to do is I want you to prioritize the joy points in life, the real joy points in life. I don't believe in just living on ramen. Deprivation doesn't give you a rich life. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but I want you to spend on the things that actually truly bring you joy in a responsible way, because the thing that I know is that if we don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, we will not enjoy the destination of financial freedom. So, but the tendency is to allow impact of the media, social media, what we see our neighbors doing and all that stuff to define what we want to do and what's meaningful in our life versus going internal or external with your partner and saying, what's our vision? What do we want? What really brings us joy? Let's spend on that. And let's make that the priority, and everything else goes to the future. So you're still getting the richness of your life today while you're trying to magnify your income, while you're building a future. But the big thing is get you on the field, prioritize investing, and then just start. And if all you can do right now is put something into a high yield savings account, start there. It's out of sight, out of mind. You're not spending it. And
Right. You
then we
don't need
decide to invest.
advice on it. You don't like right now. I mean, at the time we're recording this, I think the wealth fund account's somewhere like 4 point something percent. Am I right? Like roughly?
No, I think it's still at 5 or
Oh,
5,
cool.
5 and a
Okay. Even
quarter.
better. So
Yeah.
that is like, for me, that was such an easy move of, okay, at least I know my money's over there. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lose it. I'm guaranteed not to lose it. It's for sure getting interest, right? And that's a great place to at least get started. And it becomes the savings account. It becomes the
The
emergency
tax
fund.
account, all of
Yeah,
it.
the tax account. Like, so really every month I'm like moving over money. That's profit from the business. That's where it goes. But my tax account is sitting here earning money until I then, pay it off. So little things like that could make a big difference.
Yeah, and then when it comes to investing, we start simple. You start simple. It isn't complex stuff. It's
Mhm.
stuff that you can understand. It can be basically, I want people in index funds or ETFs, low cost, low fee. You don't need an advisor to do it. You can do a
Mhm.
1 fund, 2 fund, 3 fund, or 4 fund portfolio. That's it. That's about it. And you put it on automatic and you forget about
Amazing.
it.
Yeah, your book gets more into this. So anything
Yes,
that if we're over your head, if this is like, oh my gosh, what is he talking about? 3 fund. Okay,
yeah,
Mel's got you. He has
I do.
just come out with this amazing book. So Mel, can you fill us in? Like, what can we expect from the book? Where can they go grab it? I want to make sure everybody knows. And
Beautiful. So,
can I break for a minute? Mel
yeah,
sent me one of the original copies. Like I'm talking like OG, not even
original.
kind of complete yet. And I just got to consume it and devour it. And it is so, so good. So even though it just launched, I've actually read it a few months ago and you guys are in for a treat. I'm excited to
Thank
read the final version.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the final version is even better than what you got because the editing process and
Oh,
everything.
I'm
But
sure. Yeah, I can only imagine.
yeah, so it's called Building Your Money Machine: How to Get Your Money to Work Harder for You Than You Did for It. But the premise of the book, and it's not theory. This is the road I ran. This is my journey. These are the mistakes I made, the things, the cautionary tales. I tried to build it in story and hand-drawn frameworks, and make it easy, accessible for people. It's part money philosophy, it's part money mindset, it's part money strategy, and it's part money tactics. It is not just money, because I want people to use it to build the life that they want.
Right.
And so it starts with defining what that looks like and then saying, all right, how do we make the dream the reality? What are the principles? What are the things to be careful of? How do you overly simplify it to make it happen? And so I take them through the whole thing. It's a prescription on what to do with every dollar, to how to think about it, how I thought about it, the mistakes I made to make it happen. And it's Look, I think it's going to transform how people see money,
Yeah,
but at
I
the
do
same
too.
time, as much as I want people to buy the book, that might help me hit a list somewhere. It is going to put a few bucks in Jeff Bezos' pocket, but he doesn't need it. But it doesn't change your life if you just buy the book. Reading the
Right.
book will soothe you, will give you hope, will show you the path, but that won't change your life. What I need everyone to do is get the book and then do the book, become the book,
Yeah.
because that will change your life. That will change your life. And so one of the things that we did, if you get the book, if you go to the yourmoneymachinebook.com, you can access the different retailers, whether you're in the UK or Canada or Australia or the US. There's plenty of retailers there. Order it there, bring the receipt back. I'm going to give you a set of gifts and wealth resources to accelerate you, support you, and guide you so you can do the book. And part of that is going to be an implementation workbook that I just added and a book club guide if you want to do a book club and do this as a community. And what I've told people is if you have enough people in that book club, you let me know and I'll come in and do a Q&A for
Amazing.
you and everything. So that's how I want it. June 11th, the book comes out. And to me, that's the beginning of a new financial destiny for everyone that gets it, that
Mm.
we start the journey then, and we then carry on forward.
Here's the deal, guys. Mel is a business owner. So he just has a different concept on a lot of this. And it's not even if you're thinking, well, my CPA is a business owner. Yes, but some CPAs, I am not modeling my business after, right? They are here
No.
to show me the numbers. They're here to show me, right? But I may make more than my CPA, right? And that's the part where I want you to be very, very careful. You want to be learning about money from somebody you aspire to be, from somebody that actually has created the wealth that they're talking about. And I can tell you, knowing Mel for, oh my goodness, maybe 8 years already, it's crazy to even
Yeah.
think about. Mel is absolutely that guy. So Mal, thank you so much for working so hard on getting this book out here. So many people need to hear it. I can't wait to reread it, see the new pieces of it. So again, buildyourmoneymachine.com. Is that right?
No, yourmoneymachinebook.com.
Yourmoneymachinebook.com.
Yeah.
Yourmoneymachinebook.com. Amazing, you guys. Mal, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, friend, just for everything you do and appreciate everything you've shared with me personally on my finances. Like you are always been such an amazing sounding board, and I just appreciate you so much.
Oh my God, Stacey, thanks for having me on again. And the friendship means more than you know.